Communication is a gift. Some people are good communicators. For others, that's not their thing. Some people want to be on stage. Others prefer to stay backstage. But when we talk about communication and relationships, none of us gets to excuse our behavior by just saying, well, I'm just not gifted as a communicator. To have healthy relationships, all of us have to work at communication. My name's Joe. I'm a licensed mental health counselor and also an ordained Christian minister. So my perspective on these topics is obviously shaped by a worldview that says God cares about you and He cares about how you communicate in your relationships. So there's a well-known passage in the Bible that I think speaks deeply to this idea of communication, especially when feelings are involved. James 1:19 says, "Know this, my beloved brothers, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger." Now, the context of this is James is writing this sermon to first century Christians who are going through a lot, some serious trials and suffering going on. And trials get you all up in your feelings, don't they? And when you're all up in your feelings, communication with others can get dicey. So James says, be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. But I actually want to tackle these three in reverse order, and it'll make sense why in a minute. Let's talk first about slow to anger. Now, of course, the main meaning of this phrase is applying patience to your anger, not being easily angered, and being a gracious, forgiving person. But the word slow here is really important. It's a really important word when it comes to any of our troubling emotions. Neuroscience has taught us that, generally speaking, the back and right parts of the brain are in charge of our emotions, while the left and front parts of the brain are in charge of words and reason. It's the executive functioning. When we experience the world, we experience it through our five senses. The sensation then travels up the spinal cord to the brain. This means that our experiences reach our emotional brain before reaching the executive portion in the front brain. So if you've ever felt like you needed a second to gather yourself before responding to a stimulus, that is you giving time for the stimulus to pass from your back brain to your front brain. So what if you don't use the front brain, your executive function, to help you communicate? Well, you're likely going to be speaking from your feelings. When the back right brain is calling the shots, we will find ourselves speaking from emotions. Maybe we feel hurt or disrespected, but we haven't taken the time to really identify those feelings. Our next response is going to be coming from those feelings. It's likely going to be a fight or flight counterattack. You feel hurt, so you instinctively hit back to protect yourself. You always, you never, what's wrong with you? The flight is when you just bail on the conversation. I can't take this anymore, I'm out of here. Or you freeze, you just shut down completely. Here's the takeaway. None of these responses truly represents yourself and how you feel. Maybe you feel rejected, really hurt, but you're not communicating that. You're communicating from that. But what's coming out is attack or criticism or stonewalling. But none of those truly represents you and how you feel. And none of those will generate relational connection. They tend to just make things worse. So what if instead we spoke for our feelings? Well, this is more akin to what James means when he encourages us to be slow to speak. When we catch ourselves stuck in the back brain, we pause to give ourselves a minute to engage the front brain. We can then access the power of speaking for our feelings in a way that both truly represents ourselves and invites connection. So you feel hurt or disrespected, but instead of letting your back brain call the shots and send you into fight-flight mode, you take a second and you put words to how you're feeling. Right now, I'm feeling pretty disrespected. It hurts. I desire to feel like I'm on an even playing field with you. This would be speaking for the feelings, putting words to the emotions, which paints a truer picture of what's going on inside of you than a counterattack ever would. Also, this communication invites the other person to see you and gives them a chance to engage their empathy and move towards you rather than against or away from you. So think about this metaphor. Imagine your troubling emotions are like screaming kids in the car. When our back brain is in charge, your emotions are in the driver's seat of your life. This is like letting your kids drive the car. It's dangerous. It's not their place. But on the other end of the spectrum, just stuffing your emotions or pretending they don't exist is like putting your kids in the trunk. Also dangerous. Where do the kids actually belong? Not in the driver's seat, certainly not in the trunk, but in one of the passenger seats. And when your front brain is in charge, you're not squeezing your feelings into a hidden compartment in the trunk, but you're also not letting your emotions take the wheel. Instead, you're letting your emotions have a voice from the passenger seat, all the while you're still in charge of where the vehicle is going. All right, so how about we look at a couple of examples? In these examples, let's imagine this is a married couple, but these principles apply to friendships, work relationships, family relationships, all relationships that involve emotions and have some level of trust. Here's the first scenario, okay? My spouse dismissed my idea for a vacation. Speaking from emotion may sound like this: you never listen to any of my ideas. This, though, would not be a truthful reflection of how I'm actually feeling. Instead, because I'm operating out of my back brain, I'm responding with an accusation. Probably not going to generate connection in this conversation. In fact, likely will lead to defensiveness and probably a cycle of counterattacks. So instead, using an I statement, what would be an example of me speaking for my emotions? Maybe something like, I'm feeling dismissed right now, a little bit frustrated as well, feeling like my ideas don't matter. See how this is focused on me and what's going on inside of me instead of trying to guess the other person's intentions? All right, second scenario. My spouse has made plans that do not include me. Example of speaking from emotion might sound like, hey, don't worry about it. It's not like I wanted to spend time with you tonight or anything. This would not be a truthful reflection of how I'm actually feeling. Instead, because I'm operating out of my back brain, I'm responding with passive aggression, probably not going to generate connection in this conversation. So instead, using an I statement, what would be an example of me speaking for my emotions? Well, maybe something like, it kind of stings. I wanted to spend time with you tonight. I feel hurt and left out. Now you may say, Joe, can't this guy just get over it? It's not that big of a deal. Well, it may not be a big deal, but when it is a big deal, maybe because, I don't know, it's happened a lot, or maybe because he had planned something with her, whatever. The point is, when it is a big deal and there are emotions involved, it's always going to generate a better result to use your words and speak for your feelings rather than speaking from them. All right, scenario 3. My spouse has lashed out at me in anger and criticism. I'll give you 2 examples of speaking from your emotions with this one. One would be engaging in counterattack. Yeah, well, yesterday when I wanted to talk, you didn't want to talk. You only want to talk when you want to talk. Okay, that's countering the lashing out with blame and accusation. Another example would be maybe the passive pouting approach. Oh, okay, I guess I'm just the worst. I'm the absolute worst. How do you even deal with me? Again, this may not be the same level of intensity or volume, but it's still giving the keys of the car to your emotions, and you're still not representing yourself. What might it look like to represent yourself and speak for your emotions? Again, using an I statement, maybe I say, I'm feeling afraid right now. Afraid that in your anger you're going to push me away. Or maybe I say, I'm feeling angry inside right now, and I think it's because I don't feel heard or seen. So that's just a little primer on communicating when your emotions are involved. The other side of this, of course, is how do we respond when someone has communicated to us about their feelings? That's the next video, in which we will take up that first phrase James uses, quick to hear.